In the last video, we talked about stacks. Now we're going to be talking about the sort of close cousin of the stack, the queue. And so, as I mentioned, don't forget that stacks and queues are kind of the pair that go together, and arrays and lists are sort of the pair that go together. And you build queues and stacks from arrays and lists depending on the features you need. And so, previously we spoke of a LIFO queue, last in first, or I'm sorry, a LIFO, which is a stack, last in first out. And so when we're talking about queues, we're typically talking about first in is the first out. FIFO. So let's draw our little memory model again here. And this time, let's thinking about like we're using an array. So we'll draw it sideways this time. And so beforehand, I'll just write the operations of a queue. So before we had push and pop, that was kind of the pair. So let's write off to the side here that for stack, just so we remember, the kind of pair was we had push, and the other part of that was pop. So now with a queue, the kind of pair of operations for putting in the queue and getting out of the queue are going to be in queue and dequeue. I think that's how you spell it. Close enough. Actually, no, that's actually something else completely. So let's make sure we spell this correct. There's something called the double-ended queue, and I think that's what I spelled. But this is D, DE, and then Q. Okay. So now let's get back to our memory model here. And let's just say we're doing an array implementation. So with this one, it's the first thing that's in is the first thing out. So typically what you'd think of is the line at the grocery store. When you enter the line, the first person in the line is the first person to get served. So it's the complete opposite of a stack. A stack, you can only access the thing on the very top of the stack. With a queue, and this is more probably what you're used to is if you get if you're working on some sort of assembly line, well, the first thing you're gonna put together is the first thing that they put on the assembly line. You're gonna get them one at a time, and queues are used all the time in computer science. So, say you're a web server, say you're Google, and you get a request. Well, you want to process the requests in the order that you get them. And if, say, you don't have enough processing power at the moment, and you need to put it into a queue, typically the way you want to service the queue is and you can get into really fancy queues. We're just going to talk about basic queues, but you want to service the first one that's entered the queue. So you want to say the first one in, I want to make sure that's also the first one that gets serviced. So let's look at these operations. So say we put the number 5 onto the queue, and then 7, 9, 11. Okay, so this is left to right, the order that they came in, and then so that was the in queue operation. So we said in queue, we in queued 5, and then we did the same thing for 7, 9, and then we in queued 11. If we want to process this queue, what we do is we start from here, and as it leaves the queue, this piece of memory becomes available. One of the issues you can see that happens with queues is the queue is just going to slowly move over to the right, and so in this case, maybe you want to use a list, because once we've pre-allocated this, once we run out, we're going to have a bunch of empty stuff at the beginning, and then we're going to just kind of gradually push this memory over to the right, and then we're going to have a lot of unused area within our array. But that's fine for now. Let's just not worry too much about the specifics. Let's just understand how we process a queue. And so that one gets processed, and then we process that one, and that memory becomes available, and so on and so forth. Okay, and so that's really a pretty simple concept. As you can see, I say the memory becomes available, but it's not really available unless the queue is empty, and then we can start at the beginning. But as long as there's items in the queue, and like I said, STL is going to take care of a lot of the specifics for that and create the most efficient queue that it can reasonably do. But those are the main operations. We're going to be putting into the queue, and we're going to be removing from the queue, and just make sure you understand that when you ask for something from the queue, it's going to be the first thing you put into the queue.